Cameron tries not to sigh, just wanting to get into town so he can be sure he doesn't feel anything. To really make sure there's nothing to be worried about. He isn't worried about ghosts, but rather his own brain and what it might do. The road becomes smaller and newer looking as they pull up to the lake. Oh, because they were renovating the lake to make it an attraction right up to the end.
Yep.
So it's the newest part of Echo, basically. They were trying to turn this reservoir into a recreational spot right when it all happened. They both get out, Cameron stretching his legs gratefully. I love how many custom backgrounds there are.
Yeah, this is a really charismatic character design as well. I really like the art style of this whole game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Paintfox art is good. I think the backgrounds might be Kardamon, or I'm mixing people up.
They look great, nonetheless.
The number of Echo Project people at this point. I'm very much
too bad.
I'm very much excited that like they learning from past actions. The Howley projects going forward are like, okay, here's our background artist, here's our sprite artist, and one writer. We're just gonna clean this whole credits list up right now, like akin to Haps. I mean, at Astra with like where it's it was Haps and Black Sun, and I think after at Astra it's just Haps for all the visuals, which is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And then they moved from. By now, I believe they've moved from. I always want to say open source, so public domain music to like a specific.
Yeah. Composer, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of their name. Is it Anti something, or is it Rhythmic? We'll get back anyway. There's credits.
The music's good so far, though. It's really setting a mood. I like it. All right. That's too bad. It kind of looks nice.
You can fit so many bodies in this lake. Slaps the top of it.
Slapping the rock right there.
Yeah, this place has had a long string of bad luck.
Bad luck is one way to put.
Hold that thought. I'm gonna pee. We can't talk when I pee. It makes me nervous. Dev waddles away, clearly having held it until he almost couldn't anymore. Cameron shakes his head, remembering all the rest stops they passed on the interstate. Gotta pee in public. With a sigh, Cameron leans up against the Jeep, staring out across the lake. This really isn't bad at all, so far. Sure, they weren't in the town yet, but all those dreams he had, all those terrible feelings, they seem silly now. It's just a small, former town with a sad history. If his brain was going to manifest something out of this, that something would just be sad. Cameron knows that his hallucinations aren't real. He's known that since he was a kid, after he first saw a monster in a raincoat in his trailer home. He also knows that ghosts aren't real, either. But Devin believes. Or at least he wants to believe. He wants it so badly, he thinks Cameron can see them. Cameron knows there's something extremely perverse and wrong about his disorder being used like this. Devin is also aware of this. Painfully aware. To the point that Cameron was able to tell days in advance that he was going to ask about him taking him on this trip. So he could tell that he was like nervous about bringing this up because he's obsessed with this topic but thinks it's wrong to do this.
Exploitive.
Because it is.
It is. I mean, thankfully he has so much ketamine that he can just do and kind of chill out the rest of the night. It's okay. It really smooths it over.
Ketamine coyote.
Oh man, that's nuts. I'm still not over that.
It was not the word you expected that sentence to end on.
No, and it's such a profoundly bad idea to mix with the disorder that he is openly aware that he has. It's just like, come on, dude.
And yeah, this is wrong. But the bear doesn't even think Cameron is mentally ill, or at least that's how it comes off to the coyote. Devin doesn't understand how it feels to struggle with reality, with the feeling that at any moment you could lose it. This isn't his fault. Most people have a solid perception of reality, like a normal person should, and they take it for granted. That, and Cameron never really told him what it was like, so how could he understand? He told him a little bit, but he'd always been worried in the back of his mind that Dev would leave him if he told him everything. So Dev took these snippets of insight into Cameron's psyche and somehow interpreted it as being gifted. Oh, no. So it got worse, essentially. That's not It's a version of the stigmatization of mental illness where the person who has the mental illness has a permanent barrier between everyone around them because they're afraid to ever tell them about the actual extent of what they experience because that might just separate them. It might just leave. That's like their greatest fear, is just being left alone entirely. And Toaster's back.
Sorry about that. I also had to pee very
badly.
Yeah,
I was like, speaking of frequent pee breaks.
Okay, I've been good this whole time.
Hallie just has your number.
Clearly.
So Dev, that's the gifted one. It had been over 5 years at this point, and Dev had seen Cameron at his worst, at his absolute craziest, and somehow he'd stuck around and still believed this coyote was just a normal guy with some personal issues. Cameron hugs him a little tighter, realizing that now is the time to really talk about it. And then, after this, they can have a fresh start in Boneville.
In Boneville. They're going to Bonetown.
They're going to Bonetown. Ew. I am at least 3 pounds lighter after that.
You know, while I don't mind taking a piss in the wilderness, I'm not doing anything more than that.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping there'd be a porta potty or two around here, but it looks like we'll have to dig some holes.
Dev!
Whoa, just kidding, babe. We can drive to the rest stop.
We can just break into some houses. It's fine.
Yeah. That's the lesser shown part of Silent Hill is when
is all of Harry's bathroom breaks, all of James's bathroom breaks.
Yeah, and all the abandoned houses. He's just that's what every time he crosses out a house on the street, that's what happened.
No, the locks aren't broken, they're just occupied.
Every single one.
There's a lot of tourists in Silent Hill.
No.
Oh boy.
Do you have an eye scar?
Maybe. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
What's wrong? The coyote pauses, trying to get into the midst of this sure-to-be uncomfortable conversation, trying to get into the mindset this sure-to-be uncomfortable conversation is going to require.
Just give me a sec.
Cameron sees the bear's demeanor change instantly. Oh. Okay. But while I'm giving you that sec, I'm sorry for teasing you and being all gross. I know this isn't really where you want to be right now, and I was just trying to lighten the mood, and you know it's because I love you.
Jesus Christ, stop!
Devin goes quiet and swallows, the sound comically audible. There's a pause, and though Cameron tries to keep a straight face, the tension just seems to break on his own.
I would much rather hear you make poop jokes than act like that.
What? Considerate?
Sort of. You are considerate, just not in that weird, anxious way.
Well, sue me for trying to be careful. I just don't want to say something stupid, and Cameron cuts the bear off, not wanting to put this off any longer.
Just listen and let me talk for a minute. I know you haven't said it, but let's just get it out in the open that I know you wanted me to be here for more than just company. I'm not that stupid. And I just want to say that I don't think this is a good idea, because what I have is a mental disorder, not an ability.
I know. I shouldn't think of it that way, but I researched it and oh no.
You should just end the sentence there. You don't have to justify it, man.
Sometimes people just the answer is to talk less.
Walk straight into the pit trap that's waiting for them.
But I researched it and I just don't think it lines up with you having a mental. Dev cuts himself off as Cameron sighs deeply.
Please don't.
I'm sorry. Dev once again stops short as Cameron holds up his paw.
But what's important is if this helps you, whether I think it's real or not. You've done a lot for me, and I want to be able to do something for you.
I love this incredibly specific and strange dynamic where the person who hallucinates is the skeptic.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like it a lot.
Like the person with the most objective perception of reality is the one that believes in extrasensory things.
Yeah.
It's completely flipped.
Yeah, it's a really dangerous dynamic too, because it means the moment that things begin to get unmoored, there's going to be no baseline at all.
Yeah.
No one is going to have a grasp on reality.
Devon's going to want to see things, and Cameron's going to see things that he doesn't want to think are real.
Yes, exactly.
That's going to be a huge problem for a game set in Echo. No. What I think doesn't matter. What's more important is...
So, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be your psychic for the weekend.
Wait, really?
Dev, I'm not spending the whole time role-playing like we're having a good, innocent time in that murder town.
But... I don't want to make you do something you don't.
I want to. I might not like it, but I want to do it, if only for you.
Cam.
Nope. I've made my decision, and I'm doing it, but just this once.
If you're sure, but please don't put me ahead of your...
And I did some research on that forum you linked me. Oh no, he is Alex from Y2K.
Omnisom or whatever it's called.
All right. And I did some research on that forum you linked me to a few years back, so my sixth sense is primed and ready.
The forum was legitimately the best part of Y2K.
Oh, of course.
What a great idea. That finally seems to snap Devon out of his reluctance. Wait, seriously?
We found the trailhead.
There were so many people like you on that forum. Did you... Look at that big smile.
Yeah, I know. Oh, no.
He's so dumb.
We're going to meet Slender Man. It's going to be so much fun.
I'm going to kill you for Slender Man.
I swear it's real. Listen, I want you to find your answers. I really do. But I think the worst thing I could do is lie to make you feel better.
I think Hallie might like large, dumb men.
Yeah, he's a really big fan of actual idiots. I'm going to be completely honest about everything. Whether or not I see something.
Of course. That's what I want.
And that's why you shouldn't be getting your hopes up right now. I'm just telling you that I'm gonna try.
The bear stares at Cameron for a few seconds, just smiling.
What?
I'm just glad I met you, and that we're together, and that you're here with me.
Those last two sentences are the same thing.
Well, together in a relationship.
We're together, and you're here with me.
They have different implications. Devon wraps an arm around Cameron, pulling him into his side as they both lean back against the Jeep. Aww. The funny thing is, I just, for a second there, my brain broke, and I thought we were transitioning from a CG to a CG, because the Sprite art feels enough CG like that I didn't register the difference for a second.
Yeah. Look at the bumper sticker. Vote person for president.
Person for president. What the fuck? I looked for way too long at the wheel cover, I guess. And I just blanked on what you meant.
I guess one of them is a robotics major then, right? Or is in the robotics club? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it seems like it. Imagine being a college student.
It's been too long.
I know. I'm like actually like distressed by the fact that like
oh no, we're older than the characters in this visual novel.
By like a decade. The help.
We're old or dying. Help.
They said 25. They're old for college students.
They are, yeah.
Or they're in masters or something. I don't know. But the
oh yeah, maybe they're grad students.
Yeah, they could be grad students or something. I forgot about the part where people opt into even more school after the school. I'm just always caught off guard by the fact that like I was on a precipice once where I was finishing high school, which was this 4 long years. It felt like the longest period of time ever conceived. And then realizing on my way to high school graduation that I'm about to opt into college, which itself is 4 more years at least. And that was just this incomprehensible idea of just starting over right when you finished. Not only did that kind of fly by, but college was 5.5 years for me, and it ended a decade ago. And I'm like, no, it just goes. There it goes. I'm gonna be 60 tomorrow. I'm 33 as of less than a week by the time this video comes out, probably. Kill me.
Yeah, no, it's all over. It's all downhill. Sorry. Bye.
Yep. Gray muzzle status achieved.
Yep.
Even fucking McSkinny, who was a furry for 6 months, called me a gray muzzle. I'm like, God damn it. I know ancient
You're just getting lit up by the Echo team.
Yeah. It's fine. I get fan art every week. It makes up for it.
What a meter stick to judge your life by.
I mean, what else is good? Who gives a shit? I don't need anything else. I looked at art online in this fandom for like 15 years, and now it's of me. I'm like, wait, that's not possible.
Now it's our job to usher people, unsuspecting people, into the horrors of furry visual novels in this crazy fandom.
It's been legitimately strange lurking for like 15 years and then being observed for a year straight. I'm like, this is a very different experience.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you ever feel like, I don't know, you're just not into it, just let me know.
Well, as long as you're not expecting anything, I think it'll be all right.
Yeah. Dev goes on grinning and Cameron narrows his eyes.
Because I'm getting the feeling that you're expecting a lot.
Dev pauses, seeming to think. Well, I'm also happy that you're being more open like this. I'd always felt like you didn't want to talk about it. Cameron also thinks.
I guess I just didn't want to be told that what I see must mean something, you know?
Yeah, that would get old pretty fast. But since we're talking about it now, does it not? Like, some of the things you mentioned don't make sense, like that raincoat creature, but what about your old friend who, you know...
got shot in the head? After I hallucinated that someone shot him in the head?
Admittedly a little on the nose. Yeah, that one.
Huh. I wonder if this is... I mean, maybe I'm just drawing connections to nothing, but maybe it's Kudzu's boyfriend. Because we know he was a victim of gun violence as well.
Maybe?
It's the Echo cinematic universe, and everything exists to connect to lore. I don't know.
I know Kudzu's boyfriend died. I don't remember if he was specifically shot or not, but it would be like an incredible coincidence if...
I know, wouldn't it?
If Kudzu was from the same town that Chase was going to school at the time.
That's true. That is correct. You are correct. Never mind. Ignore me.
It'd be a very small world. That'd be like Plush, the comic levels of small, which is something that'll make sense later.
This is what I'm talking about. You and all of us really, like to see meaning in everything. That we have a purpose in life, a reason. Reason, purpose, and the meaning of life means nothing to the universe. Everything just is. Whether it has meaning is up to us. Yes, it's weird that I hallucinated the way he would die, but he was also involved in things that could have led to that. I knew he'd been dealing drugs in a really risky way, so I knew his life was in danger, and I was on fucking ketamine. All the reason is there.
Well, Dev shifts around, clearly uncomfortable and trying hard not to look that way. I get that, but there's a lot of other examples I could bring up. Maybe it's coincidence, but at some point, don't you have to wonder if maybe it's something else?
No, you dumb bear. Stop talking. You're digging yourself into a hole.
Yep.
Your boyfriend wants to bang you in the back of your Jeep. Just give him the time and space to do it. What are you doing, man? You're messing it up.
You're ruining everything. I'm looking at their feet right now, and all I'm thinking about is the time that McSkinny said, Howley wouldn't let me give them shoes. So just a rule is that no one's allowed to have shoes in this universe.
They're just not even going to approach the question of furry shoes. You're just going to gloss right over it.
This is the fastest I have ever seen someone's feet in any Echo Project game. Except, I might have seen feet at some point in Glory Hounds because they're hopping around being superheroes and shit, and there's comic panels at the beginning. That might take the cake. But like, there was that whole storyline I registered the question of like, wait, is Amicus plantigrade or digitigrade? And then Stephanie, I couldn't figure out for an eternity, to the point where I had to ask Haps directly. And then of course, like in Echo, everybody is a waist up. It takes a long time to see anyone's legs in a CG because they're all waist up. But here, right at the bat, like we're just reckoning with the fact that they don't wear shoes in this universe.
They just needed to get they're optimizing the SEO pipeline for this game. You got to see them toes real quick. That's how you get the Patreon bucks.
And they're plantigrade, the weirdest option. Cameron sighs.
Of course I have, but what always worries me about this paranormal stuff you're into and the afterlife and all of that, it reminds me of my mom.
Deb doesn't say anything, just waiting and listening.
You know, toward the end, right before I left, she was usually amped up on something to stay awake for her 3 jobs. Whether it was amphetamines or meth, she barely slept. We had this box fan in our trailer, and one day after she turned it on, she asked me if I could hear someone talking from the fan.
Like Korean fan ghosts.
Korean fan ghosts. Oh no. Don't leave the fan on with a closed door. You'll suffocate to death. Where was I? I said no, but she sat next to it and listened and eventually had this huge epiphany that it was God. And she did that for weeks. That's almost all she did when she was home, listening to the fan talk to her. I'm not sure what all it was saying to her. I don't even really think I understood what was going on. I just knew that sometimes stim addicts did that kind of stuff, especially when they don't sleep, you know? But then she started to look for specific shapes, arches and half circles.
There's the name drop.
Yep, title drop. This voice told her that she could get into heaven if she passed under the right one. But the voice also told her that Satan would trick her with fake ones to make the real one harder to find. She pointed these out to me, how there were so many, and yeah, they were there, but when you look for these patterns for something as simple as the shape of an arch,
Cameron traces a finger along the arch of the wheel well.
No, you're taking the wrong lesson from this. Oh no! You're gonna find them. Eventually, she told me everything was warped. I guess she was so fucked up that these shapes just popped out at her. Like her brain was highlighting them and she couldn't ignore them. Last day, she told me that even I looked like an arch, and that she thought the devil had taken me. She looked completely done. She told me she'd be back to save me, and then just walked out of the trailer. A few hours later, she drowned trying to swim under a bridge, and everyone in the trailer park kind of saw it as just another delusional druggie getting themselves accidentally killed.
Cameron had told Dev his mom drowned in a river while on drugs, but not the terrible details, and the bear just wraps his arm tighter around Cameron.
But I think it was a suicide. She was just so tired of her shitty life that she bet on that bridge being the arch that would lead her to heaven one way or another. So that's why I worry about following these patterns, even if it's just something like looking for UFOs or ghosts. Yeah, I think the meth and lack of sleep pushed her over the edge, but is there something genetic there too? What if I'm predisposed to it? I haven't used since the second month after I met you, but I still see shit. I'm just not delusional, at least not yet, but I worry.
Dev clears his throat. I would never let that happen to you. I know I say some stupid shit about it, but I know it could be dangerous, and I'm always looking out for you.
Honestly, it's nice to hear that, because just letting my mom sit next to a fan for 3 hours straight every day, feeding on her delusions, was the dumbest thing I've ever done. But I was high on my own drug of choice because I just didn't care. The thing is, even though that hell she was in, she cared. I took too much a few times, and even though she was listening to her fan in her own world, sticking post-it notes to all the shapes she saw, she still noticed right away when my breathing wasn't right, and I woke up to her spraying Narcan up my nose.
Cameron sees Devin tilt his head in question.
It counteracts opioid overdose. But the thing is, my mom didn't like opioids because they made her nauseous. So that means she got those nasal sprays just for me, just in case, even when I thought she was too absorbed in her own world to care. So it hurts to think about that night, how I just let her walk out of their trailer like that. Man, Cam's messed up. That's a real fucked up family dynamic.
That's an incredibly rough
bad.
start. We're getting a lot more context to all the mixed drugs when he was a teenager.
Yeah, it's also like messed up to hear that they lived in a family where like the family members did drugs together and different drugs, and they just didn't get help. That sucks.
Yeah, and that in this example,
grim.
In this situation, the example of being compassionate and caring about your family is looking out for them with the right overdose medication.
Yeah,
and not
I
anyone,
also just want to,
and not anyone stopping or behaving differently.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, maybe things have changed or maybe things are slightly different in this universe, but like Narcan is like not normally a thing that you can super easily obtain, if I remember correctly. And maybe it's a little bit more available now than it used to be, but like the idea of a mom just being like, yeah, I'll casually get some Narcan for my son who just likes pills too much is like a little messed up. That's a little fucked up. That's pretty grim.
It's worrying, yeah, but addicts don't really change their behavior ever.
True.
Like it's just an intense thing, and
it's a thing you have to live with your whole life. Yeah.
And if you just don't get help, then it just takes you one day.
Well, the thing that's kind of interesting,
and even if you do get help, sometimes like even a support network isn't enough unless you really like fully commit.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting because in the beginning, the prologue, we learn about how he says like he just likes a pill or two to take the edge off when he's smoking weed, but like you can't, overdose on a single pill. That's not how that works. So he must have been doing a lot. Like that's pretty. If he needed to take Narcan for stuff like that, he was doing a lot of pills. That's a rough life to live, and that's an expensive life to live as a teenager, especially.
Yeah.
And his mom was working 3 jobs. He was probably taking her money. That sucks. I don't want to theory craft too much, but that's a very, very dark start to this story.
No, it's not. It's not good. It's not good. That's the best thing we've heard so far about Devin is that Cameron hasn't used since 2 months after they met.
Which is also a very long time to keep using after you meet someone
who
doesn't use.
It also potentially contextualizes how Devin takes care of him.
Yes, absolutely.
We're getting a lot more.
But that also
here.
changes the dynamic of their relationship a little bit too, right?
Like there's a power dynamic.
Yeah, not even a power, not even in the traditional sense, but in the like very much like, obviously I don't think Devin is actually his sponsor, like his addiction sponsor, but if it feels like that those can be very toxic relationships between one partner who is acting instead of a sponsor and one partner who's an addict, like on the brink of collapse again. This has already set up that this relationship is going to be put through the ringer.
I don't think he has a habit of writing healthy relationships.
Certainly not, but
man, how do people paint like this? I need to figure out how to do background someday. Like being able to do like a pleasing color gradient is just so beyond me. The moment it's digital,
art is genuinely impressive so far. I'm really enjoying it.
Cameron takes another deep breath. He hadn't planned to even talk about his mom, but it just came out.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
Dude, do not be sorry.
But it's part of why I am the way I am. I know my symptoms don't perfectly match up with what you've researched on the internet, but they're close enough. And honestly, maybe you're right. Maybe there's more after we die, and somehow I can help you find it. But if things go south, and if something's wrong with me, pull me back. Thinking about the shape of an arch still makes me feel sick. Like a reminder of what happened to her and what could happen to me.
Wordlessly, Devin pulls Cameron into a hug, and the coyote presses his head against his chest. At that moment, Cameron realizes then why so many people love their therapists.
Oh, this is not good. This is exactly what I just said.
What you just said?
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
This is unhealthy. This is not going to go good for either of them. No.
It's a line to walk, because obviously any real relationship should be supportive and someone you can confide in.
Yes.
But this could be way worse than that. Like this could be a very specific bad relationship potentially.
Yes. Especially, I mean, we just basically, one of the things I really like about Howley and his writing is that he's very, very good about setting up realistic characters, but also signposting all of their flaws and very clearly highlighting this is like a cute relationship where they're supportive of each other, but in setting up how they are supportive of each other, he deconstructs why that's a bad relationship.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, they're really supportive of each other, but also in the ways that they definitely should not be, and have a completely broken frame of reference for how this relationship should work. So, I mean,
there's even an element of once again setting up a kind of tropey, idealized relationship, and then immediately interrogating why it's not a good idea for the reasons given.
Yeah. And it's clear that Devin cares about Cameron, and Cameron seems to care about Dev at least a little bit so far, but oh boy, there's a lot of red flags. It's just it is harder, I think, for some people maybe to notice these in comparison to other characters that are more red flaggy than this. But this is a really realistic kind of maybe not necessarily individually toxic relationship dynamic, but one that is teetering on the edge of being very toxic. So we'll have to see how it develops, I guess.
Yeah. I'm very... It's immediately off-putting, or how do I put it? Like, it's a... I'm immediately distressed by the dynamic that he had with his mom, because I specifically grew up around alcoholism, and it's part of why I just don't bother for the most part. Although we tested it a bit at Las Vegas.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, you had a good time.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that I'm an alcoholic anyway, but I don't play with it for the most part, like on any kind of habit level, because I've seen it go really bad. And so the idea of going the opposite direction and living around alcoholism and then just engaging with it and then just being encouraged and just getting worse is just like a horrible, horrible idea. And so having that, and I just see that when I see this version with the drug abuse being generational in the same household, and like that's a deeply fucked up relationship to the point where like anything Devin has is an improvement, but that's just a worrying like through line for Cameron.
Well, it's kind of interesting here too, because he says, like this is the first time he learned all the details, which is like, to be fair, Cameron maybe should have brought this up when explaining why he didn't want to be treated like he was some sort of psychic superhero. Like, especially if he's living with Devin, it feels like this is information Devin should maybe know about and be a little bit more sensitive to. And not, being like, I read on the ARG forums that you would be really good at solving my ghost mysteries. Like, whatever. They're young. They're only 25-year-old grad students.
I just can't believe this line happened 30 seconds after you said it.
I know, that's rough.
He'd always worried that Devin would be too weirded out by what had happened when he was a teenager. That Devin would finally see all his closet skeletons, neglectful, neglected, abusive, abused, and so hopelessly addicted. Just like his mother. The definition of trailer trash. Cameron was all of those things at some point in his life, but he knew that they didn't matter to Devin. I'm just not fully prepared. I know that it's like people are mean in their honest interior thoughts, and so but just it feels like a really mean thing to think about your mom, even though it's just what he sincerely thinks, even though it's like he's obviously cares about his mom and everything. But on the just I always think about the fucking internal narration from 50 Shades of Grey. It's always like,
okay,
my mother, the crack whore, and they just say it every single time. It's like, it's the intensity becomes slightly farcical because of that. I've just seen it too many times.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, settle in for the long haul. We haven't even reached Echo yet, and things are actually already disastrous.
Yeah, this is an unfortunate, foreboding start.
Yeah.